We've finally landed in Utopia as Travis Scott has finally released his long-awaited fourth studio album, Utopia. So here's my official review of the album. I want to start off by saying I'm a huge fan of Travis Scott's past work. I think Astroworld is one of my favorite trap albums, one of my favorite albums of all time. I saw Travis Scott twice on the Astroworld tour, and just his whole aura is definitely a thing that steals the show. Him being himself, him being such a big brand, him doing all the McDonald's deals, Fortnite and everything is really what draws people to Travis Scott. But in between the time of Utopia and Astroworld, or Astroworld and Utopia, there's been about 5 years, and there's been a lot of controversy in between that. The biggest, of course, being the tragic Astroworld tragedy in 2021, which I believe we would have got Utopia at the time. Thing I was expecting, because all the stuff that has happened in Travis Scott's past, is on Utopia to be more introspective than in the past. I wasn't expecting Astroworld 2, or at least I wasn't hoping for Astroworld 2, because that was just such a long time ago. It was a different time. Trap music, hip-hop music was in a different lane at the time, and things have definitely changed since Travis Scott has dropped Astroworld. That moment is definitely over. Utopia just Astroworld 2? I don't think so, but I also think that's for better and also for worse. But let's talk about the track list, the songs I like, the songs that I really didn't like. Honestly, I think the first 6-song stretch of this album, from Hyena all the way to Meltdown, is a really good stretch of songs. Definitely the first half of this album, I think, is a lot better than the second half of this album. I feel like with the first half, Travis Scott was a lot more personal. He was doing a lot more experimenting with his sounds. Kind of sounded a lot more like the Al Faro and Rodeo days, which Travis Scott did say this album was a lot more like. Also like that a lot more because Travis Scott has a lot more producer credits on this album. Travis hasn't had a majority of production credits on an album since Al Faro, which is interesting. I think on Astroworld he only had 4 or 5 songs where he did any type of production on this album. So this album definitely feels, production-wise, a lot closer to Travis Scott's wheelhouse. You know, the kind of atmospheric, dreamy trap music that he does so well. And you can definitely hear that on the first 6 songs on the album, which I think are the best tracks on the album. But also with this production, you can hear a lot of Yeezus, and also people are saying you can hear a lot of Kanye West, which I can understand on a good 4 of the songs, and let's talk about them. I'm talking about God's Country, which used to be a Kanye West song, which was supposed to be on Donda, which was originally called God's Country. So I can understand people saying this sounds like a Kanye song, because at one point it was a Kanye West song. The other one that was directly a Kanye West song is the song Telekinesis, which used to be Future Sounds, which was another song during the Donda / God's Country, Donda 2 era. So I can definitely see why people hear Kanye, because I think Kanye is also mixed into a lot of the production on those 2 songs, but also because they were Kanye West songs originally. But the other 2 songs I'm talking about where people hear a lot of Kanye West is the song Modern Jam. That's because that song actually samples, or was an early version of Kanye West's song I Am a God off of Yeezus, which Travis Scott does have production credits on, so that makes a lot of sense. He kind of took it, refined it, and then made it his own. And then also the song Circus Maximus, which does sound a lot like Black Skinhead. It's not a direct correlation. Honestly, my first time listening to it, I didn't hear it, but once people said it, I can hear it definitely with the drums. Do I think this is a direct Kanye West ripoff? Do I think this whole album is just Yeezus 2 in disguise, for better or for worse? I don't think so. I think people are reaching a little bit with how much Kanye West influenced this album, and that it's a direct ripoff, really, because Travis Scott did help with the process of Yeezus. So Kanye West really couldn't have made Yeezus without Travis Scott, so it's kind of weird to say that he's copying Kanye West when you could say Kanye West is copying Travis Scott, because Kanye West doesn't have a monopoly over scary, intense music, vocal chops, things like that. Kanye West doesn't own that. He doesn't have a monopoly on that. Screaming on a song, making the song dark and scary, and anything like that. Like, Kanye West wasn't the first person to do it. A lot of people enjoy it when he does it, but he doesn't own a monopoly over everything in hip hop, which I feel like is the case a lot of the time with online discussion. People just say, oh, this is a ripoff of Kanye West, because he's a lot of people's favorite artist. Rightfully so, but a lot of people really blow it out of proportion and just say, oh, Kanye did that first, and really make everything about Kanye when it's not about Kanye like that. Let's talk about the tracks that I did like, and then we'll talk about the tracks I didn't like right after that. But honestly, the first 6-song stretch of this album is absolutely phenomenal. It's really good, from Hyena all the way to Meltdown. It's the best songs. Keeps you on your toes, all the songs, and they also have great features. I like the feature on Modern Jam with Tizo Touchdown. I like the song Thank God. I really think the Stormy sample on there is cool. Hyena sounds like something straight out of the Rodeo, Days Before Rodeo, Al Faro session. So it's nice to really go full circle and come back to that. Now, looking at the intros from like that song compared to Stargazing, you can definitely tell the difference in Travis Scott's sound, because, you know, Astroworld was a lot grander. It was a lot bigger. It was a lot more trap influence, and was really in the peak heyday of trap music, which has really gotten stale in the past couple years. So it was nice to see Travis Scott not go with some trap, you know, some song like Down in Atlanta he released, the song A he released, or anything that's supposed to get people hyped, or for the real ragers or anything like that. But going through these first couple tracks, I like all of them, but the real star of the show, I really think, is the song My Eyes, featuring Bon Iver and also Sampha. I think the song is absolutely amazing. It's my favorite song on the album. It's what I was really looking for with Utopia. Travis Scott being introspective, talking about past events, and really just taking a serious look at his life through his eyes, which is the theme of the song. I think the real amazing part of the song is definitely the second half of the song, when Travis Scott gets really introspective. Also, there's a great instrumental flip on this song. It's definitely my favorite on the album, and Travis Scott is just rapping. He's just in his bag talking about what has been going on the past couple months, how he's been taking it, well, the past couple years, how he's been taking it, and just being introspective about his journey from being a kid from Houston, being Jacques with nothing, basically becoming the biggest artist, most commercially successful artist in the world at the time, but also touching for the first time on the Astroworld tragedy, which he hasn't done before because there's been a lot of legal reasons. He did a few interviews and went away for a while, but there was a lot of criminal investigations about the Astroworld tragedy, so I can understand why he didn't want to talk about it, as well as civil lawsuits. But this is the first time that we hear Travis Scott fully talk about, in a way, the Astroworld tragedy, where he says, if I saw the little kid in the crowd, Travis, talking about himself, would have jumped off the stage and saved him, which is a reference also to one of the biggest critiques of the Astroworld tragedy, is that Travis Scott didn't do enough, and that he saw people hurting in the crowd and that they were in distress, and Travis Scott basically didn't do anything, and he just kept performing. I remember a video of this where it takes it at an angle where Travis Scott clearly saw them, and it looks really bad for Travis Scott because it looks like he just kept performing. But it was cool to see, and nice to see Travis Scott really be introspective, because I feel like we don't get that a lot, and we haven't heard from him really in the past 2 years about Astroworld. That we have the song Meltdown, which features one of my favorite artists in the world, Drake, who I think does a great job. Fun fact, this was the verse Mike Dean was talking about, was thrown in at the last minute, because originally the song that was going to be on the album was going to be A. We know this because on all the vinyls for Utopia, they actually have A, so we know the song that was on the pink tape, which is A, was supposed to be on Utopia, and it would have been one of the worst songs on the album, so I'm happy we got Meltdown instead. Drake gives us a verse, and then for whatever reason, Drake likes to do this on all of Travis Scott's songs. He likes to diss all of his friends, which he got the verse at the last minute, but maybe should have took a second and be like, maybe this isn't a good idea. Of course, I'm talking about how Drake said he's going to melt down the chains that he got at auction from Pharrell Williams, and also dissing Pusha T as well. But dissing Pusha isn't anything new for Drake. They've been beefing since the beginning of time itself. Of course, I'm talking about their beef back in 2018, where Drake, for the first time ever, really took an L. I'm a super huge Drake fan, but Drake did take the L in that beef. But the thing I don't understand is, why are we dissing Pharrell? What did Pharrell do? Pharrell is all about peace and positivity, but my guess is Pharrell was trying to keep the peace between Drake and Pusha T, and Drake was not having it. And also, it's kind of like a subtle diss at Kanye, I guess, because those are both Kanye's like good friends and good associates. But basically, it looks like Drake is upset about the direction of Louis Vuitton after his friends Virgil Abloh's passing, who was the creative director of Louis Vuitton. And Drake likes Virgil a lot. If you've been on Drake It's a Blur tour, he has a whole giant statue of Virgil with his iconic paper airplane photo, because Drake, he likes Virgil a lot. But I don't know what that has to do with Pharrell. I'm not huge into Louis Vuitton and fashion, but Drake basically says how Louis Vuitton has gone downhill and is pretty much just tarnished V's legacy. Then after this next song, it kind of goes on a downhill slope. I think the song Fiend right after Meltdown is cool. Playboi Carti, it's always appreciated for him to get a feature. He's really been putting in work this year. 2 whole features, and also he's about to go on tour, so I don't know if we're going to get an album, because that's a lot from him. But the song Fiend is cool. It's kind of like the typical rage song we expect from Travis Scott, and I like Playboi Carti's feature on it. It's certainly interesting. Is this something I'll go back to all the time? Probably not, but I do enjoy the song. But after that, I feel like Utopia kind of goes on a downward slump for a little bit, starting off with the song Topia Twins, because this song is cool, but it just feels so generic. Like, it feels like Down in Atlanta, Ring Ring levels with Travis Scott, generic. Although I was surprised with Rob 45's feature on it, 49. The rest of it is kind of just like, I mean, 21 is cool, Travis is cool. Is it something I really want to go back to? No. And this also goes for the song Echoes with Beyonce, where it's like, it's a cool idea. Beyonce just absolutely washes Travis Scott on this song. It kind of just seems like an extra B-side from Beyonce's new album, if I'm being honest. I don't know what's up with Travis Scott and trying to do all this dance stuff. Like, I understand it's like the rage right now and it's like what's popular, but Travis Scott just like doesn't sound good on it. And the same goes for the song Circus Maximus as well. First off, Sway Lee's opening is really mixed, kind of weird, and it is abrupt and it comes out of nowhere, and it's like, and also Travis Scott's verse, once you hear the whole black skinhead thing, you really can't go back, and you're just like, this really just sounds like a diet black skinhead, or this just sounds like a fake black skinhead type 2 or something like that. I do like the Weeknd's part. It's just, why am I going to listen to a whole song if it's just to listen to the Weeknd? And then the last back couple songs that I liked and disliked on this album, Lost Forever, that's a song we've been waiting for forever. It's been leaked for a while, which I really like. Also, finally getting that West Side Gun feature that everyone's been hyping up and talking about. Till Further Notice is a good closer, I think, and Telekinesis, I think, is really the star of the second half. Future and SZA doing that song together is just absolutely great. Also, speaking of Future, on the song Fiend, I really thought Playboi Carti was doing a really bad Future impression. A lot of people were like, that's Michi, which really tells the age difference between myself and others, because I think he's trying to be Future, which he does sound like, and people think he's trying to copy some people in Opium, that being Michi. And some of my real positive and negatives about the album. On the positive, I really like how experimental and different a lot of these songs sound like, especially in the first half of the album. I think it's really good, really enjoyable. You don't know where it's gonna go next. I think that's super cool. I really like Travis Scott being on the boards for a lot of these. It kind of gives us the personal touch of Travis Scott, which I think is really cool. I think a lot of the beats on here are super cool. I think a lot of the production, Mike Dean does a great job. The yellow robot, I forget his name off the top of my head, from Daft Punk, does a really good job. And I think there's some really, really, really cool ideas on this album, and I enjoy a lot of it. There's nothing I strongly dislike where I think it's terrible, except for the song K-pop, but nobody likes K-pop, and I don't understand why that song is on this album at all. Like, I understand it's the lead single, but everyone agreed that this song was trash, so I don't know why Travis Scott kept it on the album. It's one of his worst songs ever, just so boring and bland, and nobody likes K-pop. But for negatives, I really think what this album struggles with is finding its own personal identity. I think the Yeezus comparisons is really holding it back. The Kanye West comparisons is holding it back. And I feel like the concept for the album is there, but it's not fully talked about. Like, what is Utopia? What is Travis Scott's personal utopia? What is he struggling with? Why is he struggling with this? What's going on with him? Has he found his utopia? Has he not? What are some of the hurdles that he's gone through? I feel like the setup is there, but in the second half, Travis Scott goes for more of like getting those hit songs that are going to be on the radio and going to stream and get him a lot of plays and run up his first week sales, rather than focusing on the idea of himself and this utopia or dystopia that he's looking for. But overall, I don't think this album is bad. I honestly enjoy this album. I'm gonna come back to this album. It's one of the better album releases of this year. Is it album of the year? I don't think so. Is it up there though, and will it be in lists for a lot of people? I think so. I think it's still an enjoyable. It's not a bad album, but it's not Travis Scott's best album. I still think albums like Astroworld are better. I think it's better than Rodeo, better than Days Before Rodeo, but I still think Astroworld is definitely the number one for me. But let me know how you're feeling about this album. What are your thoughts? Did you like the album? Did you hate the album? Do you think Travis Scott is mid and should never make music again? Make sure to drop a like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.